Shalom. I'd like to give all praise and all honors to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honor to our apostles and elders of the great millstone and that rule well and taught us this truth. And Shalom to you, Apiums, that's out there seeking a righteous male covering, and you establishing your relationship with Yahweh Shai. And Shalom to you, elders and bishops of the other GMS camps in the other states and around the world, and also shalom to the hopeful elects. You understand? The lively stones that Yahweh Shai is using, the chief cornerstone is using, and to rebuild the temple of David. Shalom. I am your Hebrew Israelite brother, Meshaba, here in the city of Detroit. Okay? And so, welcome to today's lesson. Today's lesson, this is a short little video. I just want to touch on a little homelessness situation, talk about it. You know, the people are going through all over America. It's not because they on drugs, and it's not because they just lazy or whatever. No, it's because this whole system, the beast and the beast system, is designed to eat people up and spit them back out on the streets homeless. Flat out. For real. During the 90s, I went through that thing they called chronic homelessness. Straight up. You know, I know what that's like. I know what that's all about. You know, I've lived on top of the old train station down near Michigan and 14th. I once, back in 97, I lived up there on the roof. It's 3 levels up there. I lived on the second level of the roof for like 2 weeks. Okay, during the summertime. It was better up there. It's a wonderful, beautiful view. I had this 8x4 board that I used to lean up against the wall, so when it would rain, I would crawl in between there with my duffel bag and my AM radio set to WWJ 950. You understand? I know what all that is about. I know what that homeless deal is about. It was safer up there because on the inside of the building, it was packs of dogs and Southwest Detroit gang members was always kicking in the walls or something and throwing the bricks all out the windows on the cars below, and and stuff. And so, so I know what that's about. I know what it's like to sleep under a tree, okay, with a knife in one hand and a big bold-ass rock in the other hand, and the cover, I got that. I had found it down the alley in a dumpster. And the temperatures were down in the 40s. I know what that's like. And it was my birthday. And it was my birthday that night. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to sleep overnight down there at Hart Plaza, lay back on the grass. I know what it's like to sleep on a piece of cardboard, my duffel bag as a pillow, and a little thin cover I used to carry with me, and I was laying on a piece of cardboard down there on the curved part of Ocobo Hall by the river. I know what that's like. I used to hide a fishing pole up inside the tree down there along the walkway down there at Hart Plaza. And I used to climb up in that tree and get my fishing rod when I go down there, and I would dig in the ground and get some worms and cast my line in the water. I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be homeless. I know what it's like to sleep in whatever construction site place that I can find, a vacant place I can find. I found here and there. I know what that's like. I know. I've been through that. I know what it's like riding around in my van. I had a van when one time I was homeless. This is back in 92. I had a van, a big workhorse van. I rode around in it and stuff. I had a kerosene heater in the back during the winter. December and January. I had a heater. I had a kerosene heater back there, a bed back there, lazy boy, and a TV, and a curtain. Drew my curtain. You know, police used to come knock on the window and knock on the door and say, "What you doing in there?" and stuff. One time I forgot and left my side door unlocked, and the police snatched it open. I was laying inside there chilling. He said, "What you doing?" I said, "Living." He said, "Not anymore." I know what it's like. I used to my 20 Perry's 24-hour parking lot over on Schoolcraft and Grand River, Southfield. That used to be my address back during the 90s. You understand? Back in 92. Yep. You see, so I know what it's like, the homeless situation. You know, I know what it's like making those trails, going to those soup kitchens and different things. You know what I'm saying? I used to get females back there in the back of the van too. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And so I know what the whole homeless situation like. You see what I'm saying? And so this system is designed now. What I went through now, people going through. What I went through back then is what people are going through now. You see, and for a lot of people, it's better. Because back then, in the 90s, they didn't have no off-grid situation like they got now. Now you can just plug a little converter into your cigarette lighter in your car, and you got electricity in your vehicle, and you good. It's just all about finding a safe place to park. I know what that's like, trying to find a safe place to park and stuff. And some people were trying to break in my van during the daytime, let alone at night too, with me in there. So I know what all that is like. I know what that's about. I had to jump out with a big stick, and this one guy had his arm got the vent window open and hit his arm in there. He was trying to unlock the door. I jumped up with a big stick just in time. You know what I'm saying? I know what it's like. I had a guy that came on passing inside a van one time, telling dog I had a gun, dog, and all this and that stuff, dog, and I had to beg and plead with this nigga to leave me alone. Yeah, mother wanted to take my shit. Hell no. I know what all that's like. I know what all that's like. I know what all that's like. I've lived that life. During the 90s, they had this thing called chronic homelessness. I know. So right now, you got people all here in the state of Michigan on record. It's about 3,000 people that's homeless. That's not counting the ones that's living in their vehicles, ones that's living in people's couches or in their basement or whatever, what have you. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? My house had burned down. Back in 2022, I think it is. Howard, burned up my house. I think about a year before that, he took my mom in her sleep, and so when once my house burned up, I had to move down here with a buddy of mine. He's a terror, an Edomite that looks like one of us, and all his ways is just like that too, straight up Edomite, for real, for real. But the Lord had him in place so that way I'd have me a servant, because a terror cannot be your friend. They can only be your servant. And they're going to be your slave in the kingdom. You see? Flat out. So look. So yeah, I know what that's about. I know what it's like to be walking around, and you make it to a corner, and no matter which direction you look in, every 4 directions you look in, it leads to home, because your home is nowhere. I know what that's like. I done been there. You understand? And so right now, what people are going through and experiencing, just like that woman, she was riding around, I forgot her name, but she had the two kids that froze to death in smoke inhalation at the Motor City Casino. She had 6 kids altogether, and she was in a minivan. Right. It's because the system had failed her. She tried to get into some shelters there. I know what it's like. Remember they used to have cots downtown there, the cots on Peterborough Street? Man, each time I went up in there, telling myself that I'm going to stay a couple of months, get some temporary work. And see, because during the 90s, all they had was temporary work. They didn't have no actual real jobs. They just had temporary work. You get to work a week, maybe 2 weeks and stuff, and you get your hotel room. You good for about a week or two, then you're right back homeless again. You try to go up in the cots, think you're going to save some money for a couple of weeks. But the people in there, they would always, usually some ugly